so apparently, we had a major glitch in our Wi-Fi system up here, which never happens with DFN. I have never had this happen before, ever. So, now it says we're fine. That was weird. Danielle Bethell for governor wants to join you. Okay, let's see now. Come on. Accept. Add. I'm waiting for Danielle now. Finally. It says adding, 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 adding. I think Facebook's trying to screw with people. I may have to use a YouTube that I didn't want to use. It still says that she's adding. What in the world is Facebook doing? Why are you making it so hard on conservatives trying to do the right thing? Or am I being turned in again? It still says it's adding you, Danielle. Okay, I'm going to stop this ad. Try it again, Danielle. Now that I'm back up and it's actually running. Let's see. Okay, she says she's here. Let's try this one more time. I said add. So I know everything's up and running now. Why is it that it's trying to do this? Yeah, somebody asked earlier, Tabitha Von Kuhlman asked me about our admin group. We have me. I have a few different accounts due to stuff earlier on in life. Still waiting for to add Danielle. This is going to irritate me. I didn't even have this much problem with Romero yesterday. We have Jane Brown. We have, oh God. See, and I can't go into my messenger. Well, I can now. Yes, I can. Sorry, it's been a long day. I have a lot of people around me sick and Oregon admin. Okay. I realize I'm live right now. Not what I wanted to see. We have Michelle Miley. It's Mishael Miley Wiley. Excuse me, Wiley. WYLIE. How's it going, Maria? Von Kuhlman. Okay. Hey, I'm trying. See, it's still saying it's adding Danielle. I don't get this. Are you on your Danielle for governor one by chance, Danielle? Maybe it's not wanting to use that. I know you don't want to use your normal, but you may have to, unfortunately. Because I think it's to do with the settings in the group that you're trying to use. Okay, I have Michelle Wiley. We have Becky. Um, Wallace, Wallis. I have, of course, Jane Brown, which she's known by something else to me in real life, but that's a whole nother subject. We have DF Russ, and we have Jeremy Wayne. That is all of our, admin team. We are trying to do the best we can with what we got. Yeah. I see that you see me, Danielle, and it says it's adding you on my end. What's it saying on your end? The request has been sent. It says adding on my end. Up at the top here, it says adding. Okay. Okay, it says accept. Ask Daniel Bethell to join live broadcast. If they accept, they'll join on video or with audio only. Your audience is set to public, so anyone can watch the live broadcast. Add. Now it's saying that you have to accept my invitation. Do we have Danielle Bethell? Well, this has been interesting, Miss Bethell.
I mean, it's technology, and now because I'm on my phone, I feel so bad. Everyone has to look up at me, so I'll try not to.
Oh, trust me. Trying to get everything done the last few days, it has been a very, very interesting ploy with everything.
I bet.
So Miss Bethell just really has met me over the last, week and a half, maybe?
I mean, we've talked a lot in the last couple days.
Yeah, but I mean, over the last week and a half is when I really originally sent you a message about all this.
Yeah.
So you don't know me, but I ran for Oregon House Representatives 2022 against Virgil Osborne. I was on the Constitution Party.
Okay. Thanks for running.
Oh, it wasn't even anything to do against Virgil, but I didn't want the Democrats to just take off with everything for my own reasons. Let's see, I'm trying to think with generations here. Because my grandchildren are 7th generation Oregonian. I'm 5th generation Oregonian, 4th generation born here in Oregon. Okay? As I told you earlier, Oregonians for Oregon was started by me and my sister Jane Brown in 2020, or 2019, 2020. But
can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
And I can see myself on this, my face, but I can only see your shirt.
Okay, well,
I'm happy to talk to your shirt. It looks cool, but there you go. Hi.
Hi. Sorry. See, it's black where you're at on my end.
Oh.
So, it's like, it is what it is because it's like, I have to try to manage whatever's one way or the other because I have to sit so far back just for people to be able to see me because yesterday it looked like I was standing on top of the camera. It's like, it's incredible what Facebook is trying to do. But, so we started this in 2019 after Flush Down Kate Brown campaign. A bunch of us from Flush Down Kate Brown landed here, and here we are 7 years later and 2.8 million views per month later.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
It's pretty cool. I mean, really, it's pretty cool. But to me, it was more about, okay, now that we've got this many views, how can we use it for the best?
Yeah.
And this is what we can do right here.
So you moved your camera again.
Okay, well, I thought it was high enough up because it was showing.
It may have just fallen a little bit.
Well,
I'm looking out for you, man. I'm just looking out for you.
That is weird. It's got so many. You gotta love this crud, but hey, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
So to introduce you all, Danielle Bethell is running for governor. She is on the primary ballot for the Republicans. I did some digging on Danielle. She's as much of a country person as you can get, being from East Salem. She actually did berry picking. She has been on the county, I believe it is, committee up there in Marion County.
Yep, I'm a Marion County commissioner.
And I'm sorry for you. I lived up there for a while, up until 2004, but that's a whole other subject. So I'll let you introduce yourself and why you're running for office, and then we will let everybody decide what they want to ask you.
Right.
Because today is not about me, you, or anything else. It is about what people want from us to help Oregon.
So I'm a fifth generation Oregonian. I think it's neat that I think you said you were born here. Is that right? Or raising the
I'm
fourth
fourth.
generation?
I'm fourth generation born, fifth generation Oregonian. My grandkids are seventh generation Oregonian, sixth generation born here.
Okay. So I am a fifth generation born in Eugene. I'm raising the sixth and the seventh. I have three children and two grandchildren. And my husband and I now own some property out up the Santiam Canyon. So he's born and raised in the Staten area. So we came home to his neck of the woods and we've lived out here for almost 4 years. Let's see, what's important to know about me. So I said this I was born in Eugene. My parents were married, divorced when I was between 3 and 4. Raised by my mom as a single mom, traveled a lot along the I-5 corridor. I lived in Talent and Phoenix and Ashland and Central Point for a minute, Wolf Creek. Um, yeah, I know lots about Southern Oregon, but my roots have been in the Marion County area, specifically East Salem, as you mentioned. Moved up here when I was 10, almost 11, and for the most part have stayed here with the exception of a year where she took us to Northern California and decided that was a bad idea. I had an exciting childhood. My mom experienced severe and persistent mental illness and off and on addiction growing up. So I was raised in extreme poverty. I've told a story often in my successful adult life what it was like to be a kid before I was labeled and understood what a label was. Pretty happy kid for the most part, navigating the opportunities and environments that my mom, as lovingly as she could, navigated with us. I want to say that the first time we were experiencing homelessness, not that I understood that, was when we moved to Southern Oregon when I was entering into the second grade. And the journey that my mom took us on was really, I think, something for the record books. We moved a lot, lived in cars and apartments and people's homes. And sometimes I lived with people I didn't know and she wasn't there. And I say all of that because I think it defines the foundation that I experienced life from as a young person, that sets me up to be a little bit different as a candidate, different as a community leader. The resiliency that I come into a space with looks different. My give a shit meter is different than the average politician. When I show up into a space, it's because I believe that there's an injustice or a wrongdoing occurring, and I'm just tired of the status quo of everyone who's smarter than me or thinks that their life, because it was designed differently or more privileged, has more to offer or might be more successful. And I'm a testament that hard work, being open-minded, and just trying to be as good of a human as possible, you can do really good things for yourself and others. I didn't wake up one day as a kid or even as an adult and say, I want to be in politics. In fact, I believe politics found me because of the injustice that my mom experienced through her life, because of the failing systems of Oregon in the behavioral health space, and the severe oppression that I believe that the Democrat Party of Oregon has imposed on Oregonians for far too long. And because of her challenges, I had to find my voice young. And I, as an adult, had to find acceptance of that voice and then modify my delivery so that way it didn't hurt your ears when it came out of my face. Because for a long time, I was unfiltered and angry and frustrated. And I felt, I think, what a lot of Oregonians feel today: ignored, unimportant, um, gosh, a variety of things.
Oh, yeah.
And I really found my voice in 2019 when I decided to run for the Salem Kaiser School Board, because I was a pissed off mom at an education system that was fundamentally telling me how I should raise my children and what I should believe. And I won't use the language I used at the time, but I can tell you it was pretty strong and it was pretty directed. And I decided that nobody wanted to stand up for me as a parent in my individual constitutional rights as being a human being. And so I should do it for myself. And I ran, I won. And it was one of the most difficult horrendous volunteer experiences I've ever had in my life. And that's all because of the woke left and its mob engine of designing the narrative on untruths. And I'll tell you, I didn't know what Antifa was until 2021. And they have, been something I've thought about a lot since then, because they know who I am and I know who they are, and they are relentless. And all because I'm a mom that wants to represent what I believe are my individual freedoms afforded to me under the Constitution of the state and the federal government. And then, because I was so stable in that job as a volunteer elected official on a school board, a group of business owners in my community asked me if I would run for county commissioner. And I said no, with a four-letter word before that. Because why would anybody want to be in an elected office with a conservative-minded lifestyle? Like in Oregon, why would you do that? At the time, I was running a chamber of commerce, already representing small business and fighting against Kate Brown and the overreach of the COVID mandates and the lockdowns of schools and sports and all things life. And so I guess my husband and I decided at some point after I did some research, like, I'll give it a try and see what happens. And I ran. My position is partisan. Marion County Board of Commissioners have been all Republican for 48 years. And I beat a very, very progressive, very nice person for my seat. And I ran for re-election in 2024, and I was unopposed, which was a feat in of itself, because Salem is in Marion County.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, how's it been Republican for the last 48 years being in Marion County? I mean, that just almost shocks me.
Yeah, well, the reality is because Marion County is the ag-producing county of the state. Outside of the city of Salem is a very conservative foundation of Oregonians that work this land and support the culture and values that Oregon was founded on, and they fight like hell to try to maintain it within the boundaries that they can reach.
I could see that. My son's mother used to live out, both my first wife and then my son's mother both lived out in the Brooks area.
Okay. I know Brooks well.
Well, I lived in Kaiser in 1993, 94. I moved to Salem from Wallowa, Oregon, where I was born and raised, and then I ended up graduating high school, to Salem. Okay, so Wallowa to Salem, already culture shock.
Yeah, right?
I moved to Salem a week to the day before spring break quake in 93.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was ready to go home. So, Michael Peterson is asking about the IP75. Have you heard about that yet?
Well, I would love to say that I have every IP number memorized. What is the definition of IP75, or at least the title, and I'll tell you yes or no.
Basically, they need to go back and mandate all the laws and stuff before like the mid-'80s and make sure everything's constitutional. Everything has to go through the Supreme Court before it can be decided as a law in Oregon, if I remember it right. And that's just the gist of it. I can't remember it word for word because everything that's scattered through my head since the no tax thing, I've been going.
I just did a quick Google search, and it turns out it's on your page. So
yes, it is.
Until this moment, I've not heard of it. So let me.
I have the file right there. If there's an IP, I am trying to get a hold of all of them, and I'm trying to put it on this page. I want Oregonians to be more educated than they've ever been when it comes to these primaries and these general elections. I want to make sure Oregonians have the most knowledge we've ever had. And like I said, 2.8 million views a month. This might just be the spot to do it.
So I think what it looks like, the gist of it, and I would love for Michael to maybe put in the comments if this isn't right. My interpretation of this paragraph is we want to start from scratch and essentially allow the people to say to the justice system through the Supreme Court, which I would caution you on is a very biased court, to review said laws before they're applied. Is that right?
Yes. That's
Well,
what I got from it too.
if I thought that the Supreme Court of Oregon was an unbiased entity, I would be fine for them to review laws, because I can tell you that the Legislative Council for the Legislature of Oregon is over capacity and at times not provided the full context of the idea before a bill is drafted. And isn't, one, always constitutional, two, always vetted within the current structures of laws or administrative rules that the state agencies create. So
Well,
there's
I'm wondering
several
if he meant
issues
the
with that.
Supreme Court of Oregon or the Supreme Court itself, because if it's the U.S. Supreme Court, it falls under a whole different classification of what
Well,
the
that would
laws
never
mean.
happen. I can't
Well,
imagine how the Supreme Court. So I don't know if you know how cases get in front of the Supreme Court, but there's no
oh,
way
I
they're
know
going to.
how. Yes, I do.
It's
Yeah,
very
yes, but
complicated, right?
oh, I know.
So,
And see, my thing is always the Supreme Court of the United States looks back complete history of the U.S. Has this ever been done before? Does this fall underneath this category? Blah, all the way down through the entire history of the U.S. People don't realize what it takes the U.S. Supreme Court to decide on something, but they got to look through every piece of history that's ever happened in the United States on that certain thing. And there's a
well, they
reason it
only
takes a
take,
lot of time for the
somewhere,
decisions.
they take somewhere, maybe to 6 to 12 cases a year, depending on, and right now the president is consuming all their time, rightfully so. Um, I can't click on the document, but I'm happy to look into it and just tell you, Mr. Peterson, that I receive a notification from the Secretary of State's office for every IP that's filed, and there is a number of them this year. Some of them are really tragic, and some of them are Oregonians fighting for a space in reality to be heard and represented, which I understand. But yeah, I don't know that I can tell you today whether I support it or not because I haven't researched it.
Okay. Tabitha von Kuhlman, where do you
Okay.
stand on future of the education of our children, especially special needs kids?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Previous life, I worked for the Oregon Disabilities Commission and also for a nonprofit called the Oregon Parent Training and Information Center. I can talk to people all day and be in the weeds about special education, state and federal law. What I can tell you is that the state of education in Oregon is a complete dumpster fire and it needs to be reformed. It needs to not be run by education unions and it needs to not be run by the governor. I don't know if you know this, but the superintendent of education statewide for Oregon is now the governor. It's no longer an elected superintendent. Kate Brown made that change. Susan Castile is our former and last elected state superintendent of education, and she actually had a degree in education, which I think should be important to be qualified for that position. I have a lot of feelings about education. I support school choice. I support charter schools. I support homeschool. I support freedom to choose how to raise and educate your children. And I specifically think that there should be standards. Specifically with special ed, do you have a specific question? I think it's very general what you're asking me,
I was gonna say
especially the
there's a
future.
lot of special ed because I have a son that's ADHD ODD, so I already
Yeah, okay.
have been through that. That's why I'm like sped. There's a lot of degrees because there's everything from IEPs to
504s.
504s to oh god oh their physical acting out and stuff. Their special. There's
Oh, behavior
so
plans.
much behavior plans. Thank you. Brain is not firing.
That's okay.
I see. Okay, specifically saying kids. I see brown and black kids falling behind, and they deserve better.
No, so to answer, I can see the question. So Michael, to clarify, the Oregon legislature and the legislative council has passed bills that are unconstitutional. The Supreme Court of Oregon is biased, in my opinion.
Well, she says she sees brown and black kids falling behind, and they deserve better.
Is that related to special ed
The
or is that just
special
a
ed, yeah.
generalized assessment?
Yeah.
I know that to be true. When you look at the data that's produced by the Oregon Department of Education that's collected from each district, they show you the minority populations and they're designed by ethnicity. And there are definitely areas of the state where as you referred to, the brown and black population are not performing on par with their white or Caucasian peers. I think that's different in every single district. I can tell you that in Salem Kaiser, which is the second largest district in the state, but the one that I'm most familiar with, they are an underperforming population, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not just classroom specific. Some of it's outside demographic specific. So what's happening at home and the environment that they're experiencing, whether that's poverty or a one-parent household or a how do you say it? A perspective, like an education perspective.
Emotional challenges at home. There's so much that goes into special education, having dealt with it the last.
But special education as a whole, I was a part of I worked for the Oregon Disabilities Commission, which is a no longer state agency, where they did mainstream integration of kids who were in special ed classes into mainstream classrooms. And there was a lot of advocacy and lobby work on behalf of certain parents and certain class populations of kids with disabilities doing that integration. And it's gotten so extreme now since the original intention today, where we have kids who are underperforming academically, underperforming within their emotional bandwidth, underperforming with their maturity, and no real partnership and or systems approach to be able to help stabilize that youth with their parent or guardian support with a plan that's successful. I'm not somebody that believes every child belongs in a mainstream classroom, but if there's an opportunity for them to succeed, I'm happy to try to figure out how to support that. But the systems aren't funded that way. There's this one size fits all education model that comes from the state and it's forced down in all the districts. Instead of it being a bottom up approach where communities and districts as a whole design what their community needs and then delivers a request of support to the state, it's upside down. So we need to go back, in my opinion, to letting government be run from the local communities instead of the top and just forcing, the square peg into the round hole concept.
Right. She said, for example, though, there was supposed to be a facility built for these children, but the program hasn't seen progress and no one can give a reason why. I'd like to know where that's at because
She mentioned that she works for Portland Public Schools. So I think what you're talking about, and I may have seen this in the news, is the school district, Portland Public Schools, passed a construction bond, and they were supposed to bring on certain types of programming. But they've been bogged down with union negotiations and then all kinds of other challenges with kind of just say policy related matters. I'm not an expert on Portland Public School, but there's a lot of challenges up there. And I don't know why that facility hasn't been built, but I would say that it has not become a priority and there has been other distractions within the administration for them to not complete that if that's the case.
Oh, I hate that for kids. Ross Van Houten, did you see his question?
I do. He says, what would your plans be to address the sanctuary state status? Well, first I'll tell you, I wouldn't be into war with our president. And I think it's unhelpful when your state leadership takes on a bigger power than you and antagonizes them, in my opinion. And I would, just to be really direct, I would send it to the voters. I think it's very important that we actually get to vote on this. It's never happened before. When it was originated in the mid 1980s by this so-called bipartisan legislative body, the bill that was drafted then is not the bill that is implemented today. And they are gaslighting the public by saying, we voted on this. It was bipartisan. If I'm just going to be frank, that's bullshit. It was a legislative bill that was passed in the legislature. Then there was an attempt to repeal it. That repeal failed, as we're all aware. And I don't know about you, but I can tell you that repealing any kind of statewide law is very difficult and very costly. So the effort that was put behind that wasn't successful because it wasn't well funded. And the the entity itself, the legislature and the governor's office, was opposed to that repeal. So they had the upper hand with the media's attention. Then we fast forward to 2021, where our current Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, and our lovely governor, as the Speaker of the House, amended the sanctuary law to make it worse. And I don't support it in its current form today at all. I don't think it's appropriate for law enforcement to never collaborate with federal law enforcement of any kind. And I can tell you that the cost to taxpayers today is an unknown. Most people don't understand how much it costs you, but I can tell you as a sitting county commissioner, it's not just a cost to you through your taxes, it's a cost to you for your public safety. And there's a variety of reasons as to why that's factual in large counties, including Marion, that I have to live with every day as an elected official. So the voters need to decide.
I absolutely agree with you on that. No, I'm going to, I don't want to say push a button, but Mr. Scott got a hold of me, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, sure. Possibly. Like, I think I
Scott
do.
Kaiser.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Kaiser got a hold of me, and he informed me about the person who originally said that they would back you running for governor.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Deal was supposed to be at a event to interview you. We guess is what I'd say, at a studio of some sort, and that's when you found out that Ed Deal was running for governor.
Yeah.
I don't want to open any real sores, but how are you feeling about all this with somebody that told you, hey, we're going to have your back, but then waits till last minute to tell you, no, I'm not going to be there for you when they promised you they'd interview you for that?
Yeah, it was, as he has been telling people, a very difficult conversation. He did call me on the Friday before he announced to tell me he couldn't participate in the activity that we had scheduled the next morning because he was thinking about running for governor. And he shared with me his perspectives on my campaign and his perspectives on what he could produce. So, I will tell you that it was a hurtful conversation, if I'm just being totally honest. He wouldn't be surprised by me saying that out loud. I count on people to do what they say they're going to do, just as most humans would. And, here we are. It's
Yeah.
politics is what I keep being reminded of, and that is the way that it is. It's not the first time somebody has surprised me and disappointed me, and it certainly won't be the last time.
Oh.
And I can tell you with certainty that no matter what, come May 19th, the most important thing to me is the Republican who wins the primary beats the Democrat in November. And I'm a mature enough, emotionally stable enough person to be able to fight like hell to make sure we can get what we deserve as Oregonians in November. And I hope to God that Oregonians can see past the establishment and the shine and see the depth that I bring as a candidate and really invest in a conversation with me and what it would look like to have somebody who literally rose from the ditches into leadership and has performed real live outcomes for Oregonians and can do that scalable at the state level.
I don't know if you saw Tabitha Kuhlman's last question. She says another question, different topic. I don't have a political affiliation anymore, but I have friends on both sides of the aisle. Can they feel comfortable that they will be represented regardless of where they fall?
Yeah, I actually, Tabitha, I'm not offended by that. I'm not offended by most questions because I understand the origin of humanity, and I'm thrilled that you're here just to even ask the question. I believe in supporting humans. I am a fiscal conservative, and I actually was a Democrat until I was 30, from the ages of, I think I probably registered to vote around 19. And I would love to have a conversation with Oregonians about that and the failed education system that led me into that path of being a Democrat. But it was more than that for me. I mean, I described earlier when we started this that I was raised in poverty, and I tell you, the systems that Oregon has designed today um, does very little to help people understand what it is to be financially sound and what being financially sound offers you in your confidence and your approach to life and how it's very different. I will just be very direct. I don't actually really give a shit about what your political party is. As long as you're not an asshole, we can be friends, and I'm here to show up to support everybody. I I'm not at the end of the day willing to play partisan politics with people's lives. I'm the only candidate in this race right now that can literally describe to you what it's like to take somebody who is living in psychosis in a homeless camp and walk them into stabilization and help them live their best life. I'm the same person that can tell you what it's like to help a small business owner through the path of COVID and prevent them from committing suicide so they can continue to support their families when the overarching Democrat body of supermajority was harming small businesses during COVID. I'm the candidate that's literally been the boots on the ground. And the outcome of this is important to me because I have the skill set and the grit and the determination to show up in all the places, whether that's the far left progressive or the far right conservative. I mean, I've been accused of everything under the sun since this race has started, from being a not a MAGA to being a rhino to being a whatever. And I'm here for it. I'm here. I'm here for the conversation.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, because not a whole lot of people know this that are part of Oregonians for Oregon, and I've never really been out there about it. I voted for Obama both times. I was a Democrat until 2016, when the 5 officers were shot in Dallas, Texas, because they were white,
Um,
by a member of BLM. BLM stood across the street and protested their memorial service. Literally protested those officers' memorial service. And then Obama invited BLM into the White House. At that point, as a second generation volunteer firefighter, a man that watched my mom run into burning buildings at the age of 4 and 5 years old, not caring, I guess I shouldn't say not caring if she came home, but caring more about others than herself.
yeah.
Obama and the Democrats show me what first responders meant to them. And at that point, I was out.
All their dumpster fire decisions aside, thank you for your service. I used to run a volunteer fire program for Marion County Fire District Number 1, and am very passionate about the work that first responders do. Is it okay with you if I answer Janice and Tabitha's questions about the
Yeah,
homeless
I was going to say
population?
Tabitha, Janice, and then there's Jane Brown down at the bottom.
Hi, Jane. So let's talk about the homeless population. So it's a complicated situation, and it's a policy driven circumstance, meaning that the state of Oregon's policy perspectives have driven us into the situation that we're in today. There has always been, in my lifetime, as far as I can recall in my memory, people who were considered transients, those that didn't want to live the way the rest of the population did within 4 walls and a roof. In fact, I have an uncle who, off and on throughout my life, became a transient because he liked to fish and he liked to live down by the water. It was mostly during the summer, so very convenient for him. But today we have a policy outcome driven system where we have failing institutions to support people who have mental illness. We don't have a stabilized, efficient, transparent treatment, addiction recovery system of care. And every time the governor herself, this one and the previous one, would route money into the system for solutions, they would essentially design the policy to be a failure. I describe it as the right to fail. Democrats in Oregon, the policymaker Democrats, believe that we all have a fundamental right to fail where we are. That is our God earned right, I guess. I'm still waiting for one of them to explain it to me in a way that makes sense. But essentially, right now in Oregon, we have rule designed by state agencies that are implementing the resource allocation for the governor's emergency orders into local communities that require people to continue to fail where they are, because there's no accountability in the policies and or the investment of those dollars. The Oregon Housing and Community Services Agency, which is the agency that the governor has routed all of her emergency order funds to, has policies on the books right now that require any recipient of those funds to not require the population they serve to enter into services. That's fundamentally the opposite as to what I do as a county commissioner in Marion County. So Marion County is the 5th largest county in the state, and we are required statutorily to operate the behavioral health system of care for Medicaid eligible people, so those that are on the Oregon Health Plan. This is probably an obvious to you, but if you're homeless, you're likely eligible for the Oregon Health Plan. And if you are seen by me and you want to stabilize, because in Oregon, I can't force you to do anything because of state law. If you're interested in stabilizing, I have to navigate that stabilization really gently because of state rules. Now, I don't take money from the state to do this work per se through the executive order lane. So I can design programs with other funds that I have as a county commissioner to create stability and to create accountability. And I've done that as a commissioner in the last 6 years. I've invested in programs that take people straight out of the park in all of the glory that they're experiencing in a park. I have a story of a woman that I met in 2023 who had been unhoused and living in Oregon's largest homeless camp, which is in Polk County, for 5 years. She wasn't a drug addict when she became homeless. She was a victim of domestic violence. She became a drug addict to survive because of all the horrific things that happened to women specifically in the homeless camps. When I met her, I asked her, today, right now, are you ready to walk out of this camp? Because I can put you in my car and take you into services. And her answer at the time was no, because she's a registered nurse. There was more people who needed help than her, so she was willing to give up that bed for someone else.
Wow.
The problem in that moment is that there were nobody else that wanted that bed. So I had to go find other people. But I helped walk that woman out of the park in October, and she just got her first apartment last week. And she's working towards getting her RN degree back. And my prayer for her is that she can establish a relationship with her children. That's one example of somebody who had to choose sobriety because she was using drugs in the last 7 years. And she had to make some hard choices. But it was my commitment to her as a person to understand her circumstances and the worth that she offers this world, because she's a human, that got her into services. What I can't do and what I can't live with is allowing people to fail out in their own misery with their addiction and or their mental illness or their co-occurring situation and call that compassion, because it's not. Oregon must change the policies at the state level, must, through the legislature, through leadership of the governor's office, and allocate funding to the local level, not run by the state, but let the counties do their freaking jobs and work with community-based organizations to stabilize and implement programs that don't have to be forever. This isn't a crisis forever. It's manifested by the majority of Democrats in the legislature, and they want it to be that way because it's about control. It was a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about
That's okay. No, you're answering a lot of, as people are asking stuff, you're answering all in the same thing, because I'm sitting here watching the comments, obviously. Because, Tabitha was like, how do we get these without the tools? It is cruel, and you're answering how we can do that. And Kalinda Lennox came in and said, hey, girl, hey. I'm not sure if you know her or whatever.
I do. She's the best. If you need your hair done, come to the Canyon and get it done. She's a good hairdresser.
Oh, unfortunately, you guys are a little far away from me. Oh, you don't know. I'm actually down in North Douglas County.
I do know.
I'm in Rice Hill. So
I looked you up. They have the best burger joint drive-in place ever.
Oh, KNR. Ah. Don't forget all the ice cream.
I didn't want to like throw out the reason as to why I stop there every time I come down.
um, Janice Dwyer, I helped with teen pregnancy, but we need to walk with housing and food stability with families and etc.
We needed to walk with
But
housing. So, a couple
yeah,
things. There's a couple questions. Jane earlier mentioned something about faith-based programming. So, I don't believe in the division of church and state. I believe in the establishment of community and not an overrepresentation of one thing or the other. Before we had this divisive church and state must be separated, we had good God-fearing people that didn't want to impose their churchiness on you because they loved you. They didn't require you to recite the Bible or a verse or whatever to accept their help.
right,
They just loved you because that's what God expects us to do. But
right.
somebody somewhere along the line in the policy space became threatened, in my opinion, by that representation and said, this is uncomfortable for me, so we're going to blanket kill it all and not let it be. That's wrong. As a policymaker, it's not my responsibility to design every aspect of every single system. It's my responsibility to work locally through the community expectations, the culture of that community, and help them stabilize and be successful. The state, in my opinion, through the leadership that we've had for these last 40 years, is such a controlled entity. They want to control the aspect of everything. And the one thing you can't control is someone's faith. And so they just want to remove it from the environment altogether. Here, in my experience with work I have personally led, found a path forward to be able to utilize government dollars through faith-based organizations to serve anybody. The law just states that you can't require them to access the church or Jesus. But that doesn't mean that those organizations can't be funded to provide services and stabilization. And in my community, they do a very good job of it without being intimidating or overwhelming or disrespectful. But there's room for all kinds of systems care. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And Jane is saying, what about medical detox?
What I'm saying is we need more medical supervised detox and expanded detox
That's right.
to 7, 10,
7 to 10
7
days.
to 10 days. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, Oregon predominantly funds through the CCO system an average of 72 hours for detox. What I believe in the system of care should look like an escalator. We don't all enter on the same stair of an escalator or even an elevator in life. And if we don't have a systems approach to where we have all the rungs of that system available for people to enter into wherever they're coming on, we miss opportunities. There was a study done by the Oregon Health Authority recently, and it's not that concise in my opinion, but it's also not broad enough to capture the whole failure of the system. But we not only do need more detox, we need more transition. There's a variety of different steps in the process of recovery and stabilization that are being ignored by those that are the decision makers at the state level. And that's why we keep tripping and falling. 7 to 10 days is important, but it's not necessarily the only thing that's important in this. There's a whole um, missed body of policy that the legislature isn't going to fund in its current makeup because they don't believe in institutionalization, and anything past 3 days in their mind is institutionalized.
I was trying to pick up Janice Dyer's. She made several statements. I helped with teen pregnancies, but needed to walk with housing stability and family, etc., but seemed unavailable. Ow. It was all I wanted to do. Talk even even if had an abortion. I think she's having problems with her. But no, there needs to be more talk about abortion. I'm going to say that because it seems like it's being pushed more than it's being talked about.
Well, that's because the policy body in power believes that it's a form of birth control, which is absolutely disgusting.
Well,
So Oregon underfunds prevention services by over $700 million a year. If you think about life in the way that we approach it in our systems design in Oregon, everything is reactive. And it's reactive because Oregonians are electing people into positions that have never worked in the system. Every person that's in the legislature right now that I know, and I met all of them to date, has never run an actual form of government at the local level to know how the system works from city to county to state to feds. And not just like the funding system, but like how the service delivery connects. We do everything in a reactionary space because they all come into office with their bright ideas and their agenda, but not really with the intention of operating a business that's most successful for the entire population of the state of Oregon. If we funded prevention just in this space of human reproduction, as an example, we would have less abortions. If we had hard conversations in public spaces about the fact that the average young female doesn't understand how her body works, we might have less pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies or abortions. We don't have elected officials that want to have those really uncomfortable conversations because of judgment or shame or whatever their experiences are. I can tell you that I've had to walk my own journey in life, and I've had to make decisions that were really difficult. And I had some decisions that I would say were made for me in a younger era of life when I didn't have any stability or structure around me, that I have great resentment around today as an adult, because the system of care that says it's here to help me as an individual doesn't actually care about me, it cares about itself. Oregon's structure is a system that serves a system, not a system that serves people. And I want to change that because I think it's important that as a taxpayer, I'm serving the humans in the space, not just a body of people that work in a government.
Janice Dwyer, mental health is real in abortion. I'm sure of that. I'm
Yes, ma'am, it is, which is why there is post abortion care that most women who experience abortions don't know about, because it's not something that's provided through Planned Parenthood. It's not a system that's openly offered because it's criticized, not just on the right, but also, or excuse me, on the left, also on the right. I get frustrated on this particular subject because we all come at it from our own perspective, and I appreciate that. But it's really difficult, in my opinion, to talk about something you've never experienced. And I can tell you without shame today that I have experienced this. And I can tell you the situation and the circumstances that I was experiencing and the lack of real life community ownership of me being this independent, essentially abandoned young girl in a space. And the only person willing to help me or system willing to help me was the one that is pro choice. But I'll tell you, nobody offered me other than that choice as a young girl. If I have choices, why don't I have a choice to access education and information to protect myself from having an unwanted pregnancy through medication, through like birth control? What about the opportunity for offering that child up for adoption? Or what about somebody in this community looking at that young woman and deciding that she doesn't have a structure around her and loving her enough to help her stabilize in her worth and her ability to be a successful parent and encourage and coach her to becoming the mother of the child that she's carrying? It's a very controversial subject that I don't want to talk about on a regular basis, but am willing to show up in any space and discuss.
I appreciate you opening up like that. I know it can't be easy because there's some stuff that maybe once we get off here, I'd like to get you a phone call
Sure.
because maybe I can be one of those advocates. You said you looked me up and you didn't look me up very well because 2008, I was in a wreck in Yamhill County. I was life flighted to OHSU. I was one of the people that chose to not want to feel things after a daughter's death. And unfortunately, I jumped into a bottle.
I'm sorry.
Here I am now. I came to Cottage Grove where my dad lived in 2009. Here I am, 17 years later almost, sober. And well, you can see where I came from then till now. It doesn't get much more rock bottom than waking up with your daughter looking at you going, Daddy, why can't you move?
Mm, that's hard.
So if there are people out there that are dealing with grief from something like that, get a hold of me. Give them my phone number. I don't care. Because of what I did to the people when I was in that bottle, if I can help somebody else not be there, guess what? Every day.
That's amazing. Well, it takes a lot for you to want to offer yourself out there to the world. I can tell you that there's a lot of people in need and you're only one person. So measure it and make sure you have boundaries. Something I have not succeeded at because here I am running for governor. So I think where do you stand on paid parental leave?
Yes.
Well, I think it's not sustainable, unfortunately, Tabitha. So under the current model in Oregon, if I'm just being totally honest, the paid leave Oregon system isn't set up for success of the person utilizing it and or the success of the business who has to pay for it. And it wasn't a thoughtful piece of policy. Do I think that people who are experiencing a new child or a death in their family or illness or whatever human need might exist, do they deserve support? Yeah, but I think it has to be measured. I think we can't bankrupt our small businesses and overtax citizens because we haven't been thoughtful about a system design. America wasn't designed the way certain countries in over on the European side of the world where they have more of a progressive socialist model for I'd say people support, a socialist model of healthcare. Undoing our current system should take more than a couple of weeks in order to do it thoughtfully and sustainably. And I think it requires everybody to be at the table. So I don't, the paid leave Oregon process right now, I can tell you is clunky, if I'm being nice, and it's burdensome to businesses and it's difficult for governments, like small governments, cities and counties to afford because we still have to function while holding a position and people still have needs. So it's a merry-go-round that's got some bumps in it.
I think all that does. There's a lot of different things in that, though. Well, I know it's probably time for dinner for you and your family.
My granddaughter was just knocking on the door. I thought maybe she'd pop in and be like, Grammy, what are you doing?
I have number 5 on the way.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Isn't it the
So,
best?
I have 2 biological children. Unfortunately, I lost my one daughter, so I have 2 alive. I had lost the one in '04. And then I have 3 what I call bonus children from my ex-wife, and a lot of stuff there, but they're still mine. I don't care if me and her separated,
That's
whatever.
right.
They're still mine.
Yeah.
So her oldest daughter has a 3-year-old little girl and has a little one on the way doing June, and I am just, yeah, another
That's
one to
great.
hold and cuddle, and yeah,
It make your heart swell.
oh, it does. But I understand it's probably dinner time, and I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for coming on here and not knowing what you were looking at, because that's got to be.
It's not as hard for me as you might think because I don't have anything to hide. There's all kinds of things in the media that's one-sided. I'm just a person. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I own those mistakes. But I can tell you, as a candidate for governor in Oregon, I'm the one and only that you've ever seen in this capacity with this kind of fire behind what I'm offering you. And I have real proven results in the policy space and in the executive space of really making sure government's working for the people. I am always open for the conversations. I hope people continue to reach out. And if I can just plug, if it's okay with you, DanielleBethellForGovernor.com is my website. And in the coming days, I'm going to be launching a podcast called All the Things with Danielle Bethell that will cover not just my race, but also statewide perspectives. I have the opportunity to have relationships in every single county in Oregon And I think every single county in Oregon is important and their voice should be heard. So we'll be representing that in the podcast. And then I'm going to be doing these reels. I'm sure I'm not saying that maybe necessarily right with one of my young staffers. She's going to pop in randomly with the camera on and just ask me a question. So I think they're calling it Almost Daily with Danielle. And I'll answer your questions as much as I can through that platform. And that will all be published on my social media for people just to get to know me as a person. And like I said earlier, I'm in this to win this. It's been a difficult process because I'm the underdog and I don't have fancy legislative titles behind my name. But what I do have is an accomplished track record of showing up and getting stuff done for a large population in Oregon. And I'm proud of that work.
That's a miracle in itself. And I want to say to let everybody know, I have YouTube, Oregonian Edward Renfro for Oregon. This will be put on that for YouTube. That way, anybody that wasn't here to see it can see it. And I'm going to keep this up here for as long as possible. And I can't wait to watch you as you go through this experience.
Thank you. Well, if I could just ask one more thing from everybody watching is to have grace. We're all just humans in this space and none of us are perfect. So we're all in it together, no matter what. May 19th, let's go hard for the finish in November.
Sounds good. Thank you, Danielle, for joining Oregonians for Oregon, and you have a great night, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we will see you next time.